Any cumulative
Sure.
update
I
version?
have to check.
Yeah, because there was a TSL update,
128.
right? There was a TSL
Yeah.
update for Business Central also, and Microsoft did release the patches for it for every version, even for NAV. That's what I remember. Let me just find that article if I can quickly. So this is a business solution must be built in security and the application security on-premise security. And they had patches, and I guess for Business Central they had platform hotfixes. Update to TSL 1.2. Oh, they removed that page. But yeah, if from a Business Central perspective, if they update to latest version, right, or not the latest version, but latest CU, I guess, if I know remember that, right, they should be good because we did saw this when it came out, and they had platform hotfixes for NAV, and then cumulative updates for Business Central customers. So in 2019 wave
Okay.
2, there is a TSL update, and then the removal part, Business Central 21.2. If you have application version, you must update them to 1.1 for how to remove dependency. And this, there was a CU available for Business Central. I know that's for sure.
Okay. I think it's 1 2. It is started to 1 2 and end of the maybe it's 5 8. I'm not. I have to check. But small it's
Let me search if I can find that because I remember that topic. We did share it with our customers back then when it was announced. I don't remember the exact article, but
and
Microsoft,
the
yeah.
SQL is it will be only in SQL Azure SQL server only, but
No,
not
so
in Business Central server.
no, no. So Business Central as an application had an update. Okay, so this is Business Central on-prem security, authentication and credential type. Business Central server handles this auditing, log server down, configuration SSL using security level, database security. This Dynamics 365 Business Central release wave 2. Okay, I'm looking for that page where Microsoft had exact CUs available for each version where they are doing this. Mm, this is Windows. This is all Windows. I might have to search it, I guess. TSL update. Release update. Cumulative update. Uh, I'll have to find my old emails if I can, and then might be able to kind of share that with you. But I know that there was a mail chain where Microsoft was suggesting where they need to go, what they need to do, which CU they need to be in. So I guess if you're not on that CU, you will either have to upgrade one way. The other way is you at least will have to do a technical upgrade, which means increase the application version by converting that database to a higher CU. I remember that for sure. So we'll have to see that somewhere. Okay. Let me see if I find that during the meeting. And if
Sure, thank you. And
yeah,
I will post see you in the community. Maybe you can
just
be
directly ping
verified
me.
here as well.
Yeah, just directly ping me.
Okay, I
Don't
will.
post it in the community.
Okay, I will.
Just share it with me. I'll find that if I can, and then I'll share it with you. But I know there was something that raised an eyebrow because of a security patch. So if I find it.
Saurav, hi Saurav.
Okay, all right, I will see you.
Hey
Hello.
man, how are you?
I'm good. What's about you? Saurav, hey, it's Saib.
Yeah, hi Saib. Good man.
I'm good. Saurav, yesterday I asked about you, the automation test in Business Central. So I tried it out many times from 2 to 3 tests and I am still stuck there. So you said that I find if there is updates, I will tell you about commands. But
So
maybe
is
you are
it
busy.
you're looking for automated tests or you're looking for Docker? I guess that's where I'm a little bit
Yeah,
confused.
no, my main motive or my main goal is to automation test. How to we can do automate test. Like there is a test libraries maybe. I don't try, but
Um, yeah, so there are test libraries, but then what's your end goal? As in, yeah, you want to understand about the
my end goal is to means try practically how automation test is doing. Means how our scenarios are running. So my motive or my scenario is to means to find how automation testing is working.
okay. So I'll let me figure that out because you can do it on prem for sure, right? It's not
Yep.
allowed on cloud. Just to give you very clear instructions on it, right? The whole idea that Microsoft have on automated testing is that you build those automated tests using either Docker container or using on-prem, right? And then
Yep.
you use them in your CI/CD pipeline on GitHub. So
Okay.
when you set up Git pipelines, there is an ALGO package available on Microsoft, right? Let me see if I can find that. ALGO. Here is a Microsoft ALGO package. Now this helps you for doing different things, right? So if you are creating pertinent extension, Microsoft have a kind of a template for you here. And if you are in future maybe building an app source app, then you can use this, right?
Okay.
Now, when you go in here, it tells you a suggested library for your thing, and let me see if it have it. So here are the pipelines that are for Docker container. Okay.
Okay.
So if you look at it, when you do a commit on your source control, either it's GitHub or it's
DevOps.
DevOps. What it does,
Okay.
it creates a environment for you using Docker. So here's that pipeline. Once that is done,
Okay.
it comes down here. It's creating the environment and all. Let me see. This is setting up local type environment. So this is for your local machine. It creates a Docker container. Microsoft keeps it ready. So you can just use these for creating Docker containers, right? And then
Okay.
here you will see that there is this test current, which is the current version tested against that. This is testing your app that you're building for the next major version, and this is for the next minor version that's coming in. Here if you
Okay.
look at it, it's running the next minor, that will be here, and the current will also be here. So when you run it for current, this runs, right? And then in this they will have a test
Yeah.
located somewhere. Let me see. So create test app. Now this creates your test app. mm, this performance test, add existing app or test on EML. Yeah, you can. So this is what you use to kind of run automated test in summary, right? Where you look at it and you say, okay, this is the whole library that has been created, and then to get started, they'll go. You can try the workshop here, and these all are available on GitHub directly. So here is the whole thing about it. So prerequisite getting started at an app, versioning, dependencies, automated test, right? So you can then add automated test
Password
from
है
here. Now,
Wi-Fi password.
in summary, if a test fails, you will not be able to get an app out of it. It'll just say errors out with this error. But if the test succeed, then it moves in and generates a new app for it. So Microsoft have written all these libraries and documentation about the whole ALGO project. I think this is the best place for you to kind of start with it. Right, it'll help you to set up local Docker container also. Let me see when was it last updated. But let me, where it is.
Okay, Sarah, means that we can try to using ALGO, using GitHub.
Yeah, you use ALGO. That's the best place. Now, if you look at it, it was last updated on 2 months ago. I guess there were some changes on the the workflow pieces, so they did update that. So this is always latest. They always keep this
Okay.
up to date, hopefully, right? And these are the
Yeah,
older
there's
legacy
one
version.
tutorial of Eric about that in detail.
Yeah,
Like,
right. So if
yeah,
you
Eric
if
Howard.
you kind of clone this repo or copy this repo more or less and then set up your own environment, then it'll be
Okay.
easier to kind of set it up. And if I'm not wrong, on GitHub Microsoft have a cloud VM which is pretty slow, but it's good for kind of starting with, so that when you deploy something and you use ALGO, it automatically tries to run the build process on it. So you don't have to kind of go and pay for it, right? It's a little bit slower for sure, but it works so that it automatically invokes the CI/CD pipelines for you, CI at least.
Okay, means how can we write our custom means test condition, or there is automatic of things when I do something in extension.
So tests are typically required to be a separate app. You don't put your automated test with the app. So if you look on the older videos that will be there on YouTube channel, there you know the concept of workspaces, right?
Yep.
So you need to start with the workspace where you will have an app, and then there will be a separate app which is a test app. Now the test app, the whole idea of the test app is to make sure that the app that you are writing is being tested with that test app. So you never ship your test with the app, because that's the customer will never be able to use it. It's not something that they'll run,
Okay.
as in they can run on prem, but I'll have to test it out with the new things and all. But the whole idea is that these automated tests run on your DevOps pipeline, so that they make sure
Okay.
that any developer who is changing something is not breaking your test.
Okay.
And if required, I'm not there next week, but next to next week we can surely talk about it. I can set up an environment and we can talk about it. That's not a problem. If everybody wants it, that's not a problem.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I'll try, and tomorrow is Sunday, so I'll try tomorrow. If I said something issues, I discuss with you, and we try to turn next week, next to next week.
Yeah, that's not a problem. Hey Kamal, hey Kanishka, if I'm spelling it correctly. Are you guys?
Yes, yes,
Hey
Saurav.
Saurav.
Yeah, hi, Saurav and Deep.
Aye. Okay, so we are open for questions if there are any. Otherwise, I have, I guess, a few questions coming via email and all. Maybe we can talk about it if needed. Are there any questions from anyone?
Not now, actually. I have joined first time, so for now, I don't have any questions.
Nice. Kamal, how are things, man? Did you saw your the session recording where we tried to use your requirement document to convert into an app?
Yes. In current situation, I'm upgrading now to BC, so I'm little busy on that. So
Yeah, man, go ahead. If you have any concerns, issues, let me know. I can surely talk you around upgrade for sure, anytime.
sure.
Okay.
Because at the time I'm working on 3 projects. So
Nice, man. That's always good. You need to have a flavor around things, you know. You can't just be doing one thing at a time. But okay, as in the last meeting, I was showing you guys, some of you guys at that moment, and I'm trying to see how this MCP server kind of concept is working, and I'm pretty new to it, guys. So sorry for it if it seems lame, but I was just trying to see what's possible. Right, so I created a local MCP server, which I call it as upgrade MCP server. I have some plans, bigger plans for the company that I'm working with right now. But the whole idea is that there is an MCP server which is available from Microsoft and other third parties. And then I was reading it somewhere that in hindsight, you can also create your own MCP server. So I was testing it out how I do it, right? So then I created this file which is majorly generated by reading blogs and by using Copilot and all. The whole idea is to write one single function here, which is suggest rewrite. Okay. I always had a hard time when I'm working with a team that, you know, it's a human tendency to forget about, oh, if I see a calc field, I need to change it to set auto calc field from a performance metrics perspective. So I thought, okay, that's a pretty simple request. It'll keep me simple. I don't want to go complex at this moment. So I tried to saying, okay, if you find calc field in the legacy code, which is legacy, which is what I'm passing as a string, then do what? Just change that to a set auto calc field, and I'll be happy with it. And I can surely write bigger functions and all, which I'm going to for my internal project for something else. But the whole idea is then once you kind of build a local MCP server, try not to make it heavier if your machine is not so heavy. If you're building locally, if you're building on cloud, then go ahead, whatever you want to do. And then what you can do is you can attach that local MCP on your mcp.json, right? So let me start this. So yeah, this is my local file, which is upgrade mcp server.py. And then I'm saying it's a written on Python, which I'm not an expert on. I just try to find it. And then I'm trying to see that does it help or not. So then I start this my local MCP server, which tells me that it's running at this moment. Then I go into my hello world JSON where I've written this. So now what I have to do, like we do in everything using AI, that now my as my MCP is running, my Copilot knows about it, right? So I can just, let me just do a clear chat and say, okay, suggest rewrite. Now this is the name of the function which is defined in my MCP file, the py file that you're seeing here. And then I run it. Now what it does, it tries to figure out is there a MCP server which knows about it, and if yes, then tries to find it about it. Now if you look at it, here it found that there is a local server assistant MCP server where this is the text, this is the function that's available, and I'm going to give it an input something like this. Well, legacy, which is my parameter to that function, it is shipping everything from top to bottom, the whole file more or less, right? I haven't written any crazy code. If you look here, it's a pretty straightforward file more or less. Now what I'm saying, okay, continue. It says that it's a local MCP server, so it can be malicious. You need to make sure that what you're doing and all. And I say, okay, don't worry, I know this, so continue this. Now it looks for the pattern that I have suggested this, and it's saying that I would recommend you to change or replace the calc field with the set auto calc field. Why this is recommended on, this is all generated from the public side. Now as soon as you come here, and I'm just waiting for Copilot next action to be populated, it'll automatically suggest me, and let me see if it does. Rewrite using Copilot. Okay. It doesn't do that here. Let me see. It did update. Would you oh sorry, here. Would you like me to apply the changes here? And I said yes. Okay, so it's going and looking for all the changes, and it did recommend me this change. And so it has automatically updated it. Now think about a project where you have 5,000 files like this, where, as Kamal was saying, that he's doing an upgrade, right? Typically when people do upgrade, they think that their responsibility, which is true, I'm not disagreeing to it, is to make sure that whatever was working in the way in the older version also works in the same way in the newer version, which is the right expectation from an upgrade project, to be fair. But at the same time, we also need to remember that people who are coming from so-called NAV versions, there was very limited things to kind of increase the performance and all. There were more, after the code, it's directly SQL. There are not clear indications of how you can do it. So keeping that in mind, I always feel that whenever you're doing an upgrade, these minor changes that you can do will surely help your customers while they do the test. Our expectation from an upgrade project is whatever was running with whatever ways in there, let's say NAV 2009, is running in the same way in the latest Business Central version. But when you think it from a customer perspective, their perspective is that I'm going to a higher version, I'll get a good performance out of the system, I'll have new, bells and whistles, which surely are in Business Central. But additionally, performance is always at the top of their mind. So these small changes are kind of necessary, and it's hard to, as Kamal was saying, that while working on a team, it gets pretty hard to have everybody having a similar mindset. So if that becomes a problem, then I guess I'm trying to kind of bake in a library that, okay, if you're doing an upgrade or even if you're doing a development, and because it's not in top of your head that what you should be using, I should have something which at least identify or, if possible, replace those commands with the better commands so that it gets easier. So, like any Copilot, then you do keep, and it understands that it is coming from your local server, local MCP server, and it suggests you that this is what I'm sending it to it, and this is what I'll be changing if I change it to this. Right? In the similar way, if you are a huge fan, which you should be, of the partial load, I am a huge fan of doing partial loads, right? So I would surely indicate and try to find out wherever there is a find set and what's happening there, and then figure out the fields in there so that I can either enforce developer to make sure that he's using partial records, and if he's not, then at least some way, after learning a little bit of Python, if I can, I would like it to do automatically to say, okay guys, here is a find set, why you're not doing a partial load before this. So that's the whole idea that I have right now. But then I was reading somebody else, and if you guys missed out Eric's video, which he posted last week, I guess it might be the latest one, where he talks about how he included the MCP server on one of his tools. It's pretty interesting how people can do certain things, right? I was browsing today morning, and I found out this nice blog which talks about that now customers can talk to their data on an MCP server, which is built on JavaScript, not Node.js, which I have no clue. But this is majorly building some integration with your business data from an AI model. Now, till now, whatever we were discussing in the past meeting is about developers, writing code, making sure that it's correct, like we were talking about upgrades and all. This specific article, and I'll share it with you guys, and the video is specifically talks about how you can interact with your customer data using AI based on different endpoints that you can build. He's using Claude AI, and he have built an integration to a Business Central where there are 6 methods available, right? Here are his 6 methods to get vendors, get invoice due, and things like that, and he can enable, disable them, and then he can directly go into this AI, which is Claude AI, and ask certain questions to it. Because now there is a connected to a specific business central environment, the Claude will understand from where it need to pick when it says customer balances, what does that mean, how it need to pick that data, and then it identifies that it need to read the get customer, and now it is kind of trying to build a balance table so that the user can see it. Now typically when you think about a table, it comes into a row and column format, no graphical representation and all for customers. But then with AI, it kind of makes it a little bit simpler to rethink about how the data should be presented to an end user, not to a developer. This is not about developers at any moment. This is always about end users. So now if you think this is basic HTML more or less, where it is trying to render the same data into an HTML body, building different rows and all, and it'll surely spin up a pretty good list. Here is the list of customer balances. Okay, so it tells you the same list that you are expecting, a table, but on top it tells you a graphical representation of what's the average balance, how much is the total outstanding and all. So, and there is no code is written to kind of view it like this. It's majorly happening based on the data that is provided to the AI model, which is coming from this local MCP server. We're saying, okay, connect to this particular environment, and then I have built, let's call them for lack of a better word, API endpoints, which will expose this data so that you can go ahead and read it. So it gives you that flexibility to present that data. Now, while doing this, remember that you need to have your customer consent about that data being shared on public, not public web, but yeah, I'm still deciding what this is. When I'm interacting with it, is Claude being trained on the data that I have, or is it just for my viewing purposes? Because in this particular scenario where it says get invoice due, it is doing something else. It's trying to figure out which of these posted invoices are due, and then hopefully it'll present a similar kind of chart associated with it. Here is the overview dashboard. 13 overdue invoice, total amount is this, average amount is this, vendor affected are 5, and these are the dummy vendors that we see. Rather than printing a list, which it did at the end, how many days are overdue for these particular invoices with what value and all, it gives you a graphical representation of the same data, which you and me as a developer would have taken a good amount of time to build an Excel layout or a RDLC layout with these graphs available. But whenever you think about it, think from a perspective of that you need to have a consent from your user or customer to say, okay, this is what I would like to give to AI, right? Now, he kind of defines these different models or MCP functions more or less, which is get invoice, customer list, and all those. And this is how he's defining it. He did define the business central configuration here, which environment it need to call. There is a OAuth detail, what is the client ID, tenant ID, and things like that. Now this is for cloud majorly at this moment. So it's trying to provide that information so that it picks up those environment details and all. And then here is the different helper functions that are there, right? Now this is not my language, but it's written something to kind of for Business Central. It creates an object for vendor where it types string and gets a description, checks the due range, gets the status, and then in the same way there is a get vendor, then there is a get customer. Now anywhere you will only see filters more or less being applied on different pages that are available, hopefully as an API endpoint, but there is no logic of how it need to be presented. It is just exposing those methods so that it can read data from Business Central. Now once this comes in, it says get customer, and then based on what parameters have been called, it just calls different functions here. And if nothing is found, it says no such method found. This is the authentication section, the try catch block, which helps it to authenticate to the client, saying, okay, I have these details, am I allowed to read the data or not? If yes, go ahead, otherwise it says. And then here is making an API call to these different endpoints. So it tells you what API for which company it is trying to read that, and then there are surely in JSON there is a definition about it. It passes the header and authorization as we pass via Postman, if you guys have seen those videos and were there in the previous calls. And then it kind of filters out the data, gets you that data, and then it just adds that into a JSON string. Once that can get converted into JSON string for each, that's it, more or less. And then at that moment, AI takes control using the data and trying to fetch that data and show it to user. Now once you start your npm, which is your local MCP server, then in the case of cloud you can add your configuration file, and then once you have added your configuration file, it understands where you're trying to go, and then you see this section here. Now when you think from a data perspective, it might not be useful in your VS Code, as in you can surely use all these different endpoints in VS Code as we were using for that local MCP which I built. But then this data related thing is not so relative to the VS Code. It's more about from a user interface perspective where users can see it. Now, I don't know who of you were here. Last year we were talking about custom Copilot in DevOps or Azure. Azure portal. I don't know. Anyone was here back then? It's hard to remember. But now when I think about it, after all this, it makes sense that inside Azure, if you host your own AI model more or less, then that gives you flexibility to go in and say, okay, now on this AI model, I'm going to give you this data, which can only be accessed by my customer. And because it's within the boundaries of Azure, Microsoft guarantees you that will make sure that it's not being used for training purposes. So here is what I'm saying, and this is pretty old, I guess. But if you go into your Azure, you'll find that you can create a new OpenAI resource, like I have already did. So I'm not going in here. And then it's here, and then you can have different AI models available here within inside the Microsoft Azure boundaries. Now the good part of having it inside the Microsoft boundaries, that the data from a Microsoft responsible AI perspective will not be used for training purposes of these AI models. Now different models come with different cost. When I set it up, I guess I use GPT 3.5, but you can use a better one if needed. There are more available here. And then now think about what it did on Claude. If you kind of do it here, it gives your user a chatbot kind of an experience here, right? So they can ask the same questions here, and they don't need to deal with this. There is a deployment option which allows you to publish this. There used to be an action here. Yeah. So you can actually publish this as a web app, which users in your organization can use it. So think about it from this perspective. You connect this particular chat bot or AI bot to a Business Central data. Once start reading the data from Business Central, you create your MCP files and all, which are connected to this. Once it is connected, you deploy it as a web app, which gives you a search engine kind of thing, or a chat GPT kind of screen, where user can interact with the guarantees that their data will not be used. Whatever questions they are asking and whatever responses they are getting will be used to train the model. So it creates that layer of security that your data within your framework is inside your Azure and it's not going out. So it's pretty interesting that how all these things kind of bake in, and while building these different solutions for your customer, you kind of need to keep that in mind, that whenever there is a data is involved, make sure you have talked to your customer and you have their consent of how you want to use it. I might not agree that people would like to have it on cloud, but maybe there are people. But I would surely be interested in having it exposed in my Copilot inside my Azure boundaries. Because then it kind of guarantees my customer data is not going out. Guys, is it going crazy a little bit, or it's still, making sense to you guys? Or am I the only one in this meeting who was talking about AI or doing things on AI? Okay, maybe I'm the only one, but that's okay. Okay, so yeah, keep an eye on it. If you're not yet delved into AI in any form or sense, believe me, it's going pretty crazy. You need to start dedicating some time just for AI every day. And once you dive into it, it's pretty vast. You might see some reels on Instagram and other things, but it's pretty crazy. I actually bought a book today, not about technical stuff, but in general understanding of AI, which is very important. We saw last week and last week, I guess, how easy it is to kind of do the baseline or the foundation of the extension that I'm building just by saying to the AI, build the, implement the feature defined in this particular file. And it does it. If you are spending majority of your time in doing Business Central only, it's time where you start thinking from this perspective also. It's a hard shift, I know. I have hard times even today to change that mindset for my team also. That guys, you have a problem, think AI first. That should be on top of your list. If it doesn't process your request, then we need to work together to figure out, is your prompt correct? Are you talking to the AI in the language that it understands, or you're doing something else? And then on top of it, we are working on building different libraries for upgrades, for development with our own standards and all. So it's becoming more and more important to focus into it as a developers, as all of you are, hopefully. Because at the end of the day, it is going to reduce the amount of time that you spend in doing a certain kind of development. But at the same time, it is going to, and I'll use Kanan's word, increase the pipeline for you going forward, because your work is getting finished earlier than expected. So don't discard it if you have been discarding it. Like I used it initially when it was launched, the Copilot, people who were there back then on BCOpenDiscussion, we did integrate with OpenAI. We did chat about it on the Microsoft Copilot thing. But then for some personal reason, I had to take a break. But as soon as I came back from that break and saw the changes into the AI, it was at least 15 to 20x of changes where I left it. So it's growing at a pace that you and me can't even imagine. So don't discard it. And if you have seniors who are saying, oh, this seems an AI generated thing, tell them, yes, it's an AI generated thing. And if you are not adopting it, man, adopt it. It's the need of the hour right now. Either you are a functional consultant, either Sahib, as you are saying about automated test, whatever you want to do, your AI models will help you in any form or way. Just think about it from that perspective. If you're thinking about writing test, AI can write tests for you. It might not do it complete, but it'll do a baseline for you, and that's very important, because majority of projects that, I don't know where you guys work, as in what kind of projects you guys work, but if you're working on a development project where you're building a feature, it does 60% of your legwork, where the field need to be defined, the table need to be defined, these property need to be make sure that they are in place or not, the pages need to be defined, there should be a list page and then a card page, and they should be linked, there's a sub form, there is a main page, all that groundwork which is needed, hand it over to AI, let it do for you, and then your brain time goes into reviewing what it did, one, and second, where I have, and I can be completely wrong, what I've learned in past few weeks working with you guys is that it is not good at finding the right event that need to be subscribed. So spend your brain there, that okay, I know this is the wrong event, or I know which event need to be triggered here, but my majority of my groundwork is already done, so I don't have to rethink about it. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes,
And
I have a
Kanan,
great.
you suggested this to talk about agents, so thank you for it, man. I was not losing into it, but
Yeah.
I was not sure what else it can do, but based on what Kamal provided a few weeks ago, and when we tried that, it is pretty interesting how much it can do. If it can just build the legwork, oh man, it saves good amount of
Not
time.
even network, Saurav. Yesterday, I built a complete extension idea by giving an input of a document.
Right?
It
Yeah, man. That's the
Not
beauty of
is
it.
ready. Only thing is, I have to test it functionally and then ensure that whatever I think is working correctly.
Yeah, and the beauty is, and correct me if you think differently, but there are certain design pattern that it's following that I might not have think of while I'm thinking of building a table. You know, it tells me, oh,
Yeah,
you
correct,
also
correct,
need
correct.
these fields, guys. Don't forget these fields. These are important. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, don't miss the bus, because this is going to bite you pretty crazy if you miss this. I know it's hard by whatever work day work you have, um, but it's important that you spend some time with it. Okay, there is a whole training modules from each and every big product owner. Microsoft have their own built-in videos and labs where people can try. They might not talk about Business Central, but when you think about AI, don't limit yourself to Business Central. Think in general. Learn it from a generic perspective, and then apply those learnings into your Business Central things that you're doing. And if somebody is watching on YouTube and saying, oh, so I don't have to read about MB800 now and 820, guys, you'll have to. It's a co-pilot. It's going to give you what it thinks is right. But you are the pilot who need to decide, is it saying it right or not? So don't leave your Business Central learning. Whatever you are learning, good, great. Keep doing that. It's important. But just because of, oh, I don't have time, you might need to figure out a good separation between time of learning Business Central plus dedicated some time on AI, because it's going to be a very good tool set in in your library that'll help you in a long run. So don't discard it. I can, based on how bigger companies are firing resources, not to fear anyone, but just FYI, it seems a very good trend of people who can talk to AI are the quality of resources that companies are looking for. It haven't happened into the Business Central ecosystem, as in it already started with Microsoft leaving Freddy. I don't know what Microsoft is doing, but be very clear. It's anything that happens on the top level companies come down to every company in the world. So your go-to thing right now is to make sure that you know how to interact and use AI for doing whatever you do. I was talking to a business owner a few weeks ago, and he was like, I tried 5 different models to generate a functional design document for a feature that I wanted to build. And like, okay, I would be interested to see what happened. I was like, I got different replies from all 5 AI models. And then I used all AI models to to validate whose output was good. So he asked for a requirement document. Then when all 5 of them built it, he gave all those 5 files to each of them and said, okay, just rate them based on what you think who generated the good response of my request. And there was surely some clear winners and all. And the beauty is the what Kamal provided, in the same way that guy utilized the same function requirement document, gave it to a developer and said, okay, you are not going to write a single line of code. Your task is to make sure that AI does it automatically with this functional requirement document. And it did it. I'm not sure it was able to write event subscribers or not, because that I'm not yet sure about. But rest of it did completely, which is very interesting. And there comes your MCP, local MCP server. So whatever gaps you see that AI cannot fill in, I'm not saying to learn Python, and then if you can, great. But using AI, you can say, okay, hey, I want to write something in Python to do this. I'll tell you how you write it in Python. So once you know it, you start utilizing it. So think about those.
Saurav,
Yeah.
actually, I am not getting here what's MCP server and what we are doing there. So I'm
Okay.
getting your point about AI, means Copilot and doing everything like sales order, sales order or purchase order model that Microsoft is representing in our business center. But now at this point, I'm not getting what you are doing there.
So MCP is not pretty new. It's been there for a while. The whole idea of MCP is, yes, LLMs, which is your AI models, are trained to do certain things, and they might lack in certain information based on what questions you are asking, right? In that scenario, what AI model does, there is a concept called AI hallucination, and I can't spell this word, but they go a little bit crazy and haywire and answer you weirdly to kind of give more context to your LLM, saying, okay, I'm going to ask you a question, but I have this additional data that you can use to respond me on my query. To do that, there's a company called Perplexity.ai. They built something called as MCP servers. Now the whole idea of MCP server is there are different MCP servers available in the world. Few weeks ago, Microsoft also announced that they have added a MCP server for Microsoft documentation. So if you can watch previous videos, I guess you'll find it. But there is an MCP server for Microsoft Learn. Okay, what happens with that is any documentation that is available on Microsoft website, MSDN, is kind of bundled in a way that AI model can use it to answer your questions. Okay. So this MCP server, when you use it for Microsoft Learn, you can add it to the AI model that you're talking to. Now, because you are coding for a language which is available on MSDN, this MCP server provides us additional context to LLM, saying, okay, whenever this guy is asking, if you don't find it, don't be crazy and try answering something. Use this server to respond to him. If you find the information in this server, then respond to him. So Microsoft MCP server, Microsoft Learn MCP server at this moment is available for free. Anybody who is using AI can go into their VS Code and search for here add MCP server. Once they do that, they just need to copy and paste this URL and name it. Okay, Microsoft Learn MCP. What will happen? You can define it on all your workspaces or just on this workspace, and then it gets added as here, right? So now people who have used AI from the beginning will remember that, oh, when AI was recently launched, everybody tried it on saying, okay, write me a table extension. And it had no clue what the heck the table extension is in Business Central, because it was not trained on that data. So with this added, now whenever I'll ask a question which is not available on these LLMs, rather than saying something weird, it'll use this server from Microsoft saying, okay, here is a query from this user. Do you know anything about the table extension in Business Central? And it'll tell it, yes, here is what I know, and use it while answering that response. Now, this is from Microsoft, but there are so many MCP server available. They might be free. There are different MCP server which are also paid. So based on what kind of programming language you are using or what kind of knowledge base you need, you can plug in these different MCP server which are available. Great. But what if you want to build your own? Okay, like I was giving you example that, okay, I was just trying something and I wanted to do something. So I built this simple file and said, okay, hey, mcp.json, use my server. This is my local Python file where I have written some commands to do something. Okay, a MCP server, you can provide three things. One is tools, one is data, and the third one is resources. So you can give you certain resources saying, okay, whenever somebody asks this question and if I'm there, refer to this particular resource. Or you can give it certain data saying, okay, this is the data in this particular database, use this. Or you can suggest different tools like I have built in here, right? This is one tool to do a rewrite. So if you think that there are certain things that are very important to you and you may or may not find it on Microsoft Learn, let's for example, then you can also build your own local MCP server. And that MCP server resides with you. You don't need an internet to connect to it. You don't need anything. And based on the knowledge that you have provided to that local MCP server, it'll start responding to your request in any client that you're using. I'm right now using VS Code client. So it'll tell me that, okay, I have a context that I have an MCP JSON available. So I'll make sure that I read this while I'm doing this. Okay. So to give more context and more information to answer your query, you can use different MCP server which are available. The one that Business Central developers should have in every project that they are using AI should be the Microsoft Learn MCP server, because then you are accessing everything that's available on Microsoft Learn. Everything. So MCP server provides an interface to the knowledge services, which is all the knowledge that is here. Ask Learn for Copilot for Azure. Developer options are listed in Microsoft Learn MCP developer documentation, and they have created a release note to see what's happening over there. So it kind of gives all the context. You can also add it on your different Copilot sections, and then it just respond to your request based on all the data that's available in the Microsoft ecosystem, also on the Microsoft Learn, more or less. So if you have, think about a developer who is new and who is said to build a table extension versus a developer who have read through all documentation on Microsoft Learn and now he is writing a table extension, there will be a huge amount of difference between how these two different developers code. In the same way, when you think from AI perspective, without MCP, it's the first case of developer who knows nothing about Business Central. And the second case, if you add MCP servers, it becomes that developer who have gone through the all documentation on Microsoft Learn. So it gives it your LLM a lot of context of how it should be coding for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Saurav?
Saurav. It's yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we recommend checking out
So
Microsoft Learn
Saurav,
for yeah. Come on, go ahead.
so in this, as per Microsoft already published their code on GitHub. So can it access that?
No, not yet. They haven't built anything on the code because I don't know why, but hopefully that comes in someday, and I'm pretty sure the day that comes in, the beauty will be that I'll be able to find out the right event that we are looking for, right? So this is the Microsoft Learn MCP server. Here you can read, they might not give, they will not give you in majority of cases the business central examples, but here are different, things that they are providing you of what you can ask, what kind of responses you will get, where you can do this. You can also do it in Cloud Desktop, just add the Microsoft Learn API and it then remembers it. If you are using Cursor, which is a paid tool, then you can also add it to Cursor. So there are different areas where you can use this Microsoft MCP, and it, as per this document, if you read it, it is using you can read the best practices, release note, and frequently asked question about the development journey of MCP. So it'll tell you everything, and you can use this on an MCP inspector. Now MCP inspector is kind of, you build your local MCP server, as I was telling you. You can plug that into MCP inspector, which kind of works on your local more or less, and then it kind of helps you to understand how you have coded it and what kind of responses you are getting. So MCP inspector is something that you can run from your local MCP server if you have built it. I don't know if I have that. I built it separately on a different one, so I might not have it, but it otherwise let you kind of log into a MCP inspector, which then shows you what kind of questions you ask to it and what kind of responses you get. So make sure to use AI first, and then whenever you are using VS Code AI to do your development, make sure that you have an MCP, Microsoft Learn MCP added to all your VS Code extensions that you're using, right? There's whole, I guess, Microsoft Learn library. They have created a whole course of how you should get started and all, how you should configure it. So here it is. If a question include a Microsoft product, service, or technology, you should leverage the Microsoft Learn MCP server to search for an answer, because it makes it easier to kind of talk to it. So give it a more context with the MCP server, makes it easier for your LLMs, or what you call AI models more or less, to get more insights before answering your questions. So don't just say, okay, I asked this question to this AI, random AI model, and it did not respond me the way I was expecting it, because there is a lot to be done before it starts answering the right answers for your questions. I didn't want it to talk about AI. From where it went to AI, I don't know. But somewhere we spent all our time into this. And I've tried, Sahib, I've tried it on automated tests. It works great. Go ahead, Kanan. You were saying something?
No, yeah, this is very important, of course.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. As in, there's no reason of not using it, and that'll be missing your last bus to wherever you are going. So don't miss it, guys. It's super important. Okay, anything else, anyone? Next weekend I'm traveling to Delhi for something, so I'll not be there on Saturday, but next week I'll be back and we'll talk about it, whatever you guys want to talk about. That's not a problem. If anybody had any thoughts or questions, you can say it here, or if you have an afterthought after this meeting, let me know into the community by just sending me a message directly.
Next week, sir, you asked me that we are going to something about automation test. I try tomorrow, but if I hear it's still and not done using Ergo GitHub, then we try it on next week.
Not a problem, man. That's okay. If that's what we want to talk about, we will do that. That's not a big deal.
Okay.
Anything else, anyone?
So,
Okay,
that's it
guys.
for now.
Yeah, this is how it is, I guess, at this moment. Okay, then see you after a week, after 2 weeks now, and then we'll continue our discussion on doing something else.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, man. You too.
Yeah, have a good call. Yeah,
Thanks,
bye.
Saurav.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Karan. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
See you
Saurav.
later,
Thanks,
sir.
Saurav,
Thanks,
for
man.
this wonderful session. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so are you still here? And if you are, then let me know into the comment sections what you think about this. Am I saying something wrong? Maybe. But if not, let me know into the comments what's important, what you should be talking about. You know the drill at this moment. If you think this was useful and people should know about it, go ahead and like and share this video. And if you haven't, then go ahead and subscribe. Click that button, the subscribe button. Okay. And we are open for business, as I said. And if you have any contact, any work that we can help you with, reach out to me directly or reach out to us at info@edhateconsulting.com, and we'll be happy to work with you. We work with customers and partners around the world, so wherever you are, we'll be happy to partner with you in helping you in whatever you want to achieve in Business Central. Thank you and have a nice day. I'll see you sooner than later into the next BC Open discussion. And if there's something else pops up in my mind, you'll see it on a video on YouTube. See you and have a nice day.